Friday, October 27th, 1989, just another Friday night. At the movies across the country, audiences were lining up to see classic films like Look Who's Talking, Batman, The Fabulous Baker Boys, and When Harry Met Sally. The Berlin Wall was still standing, internet didn't exist in people's homes, cell phones were a luxury most people had never seen, unless it was in Zach Morris's hand. And in Woburn, Massachusetts, a working-class city just north of Boston, 14-year-old Melanie Melanson was getting ready to go out for the evening. If you were a teenager in the 1980s and 90s, you probably remember the routine. The radio was playing, or your favorite mixtape was on, friends were calling on the landline, the smell of Aquanet filled the air, and once your hair was high enough, you were ready to go out. For Melanie, this Friday was just like countless others before it. She told her grandmother she was going to her friend's house. Instead, like many teenagers had done before and since then, she had other plans. She was looking forward to a night with friends, a little freedom, and the simple excitement that comes with being 14 years old. It was the kind of decision that seemed insignificant at the time, but for Melanie's family, that ordinary Friday night would become the moment everything changed. Because after Melanie walked out the door that evening, she would never return home. Minutes would become hours, hours becoming days, days becoming weeks, weeks becoming months, months becoming years, and eventually years becoming decades. Searches were concluded, leads were pursued, questions were asked, hope rose and fell. Yet through it all, one thing remained unchanged. The people who loved Melanie were left waiting for answers. More than 3 decades later, Melanie's family is still searching for the truth about what happened that night. They are still waiting for justice, and they are still asking the same question they asked on that October evening in 1989. What happened to Melanie? This is the disappearance of Melanie Melanson. In Massachusetts, history lives on every street corner, in every town center, in every quiet neighborhood. You think you know, but behind some of those places are stories that never really left. Stories of people, families, and moments that have changed entire communities forever. This is Murders in Massachusetts. I'm Jonathan Power, creator, executive producer, and host. Each episode will take a closer look at real cases across the Bay State. Not just what happened, but where it happened, and how it continues to shape the people and places left behind. Because these aren't just headlines, they're part of the towns we call home. And if you find these stories meaningful, be sure to follow the podcast so you always know when new episodes are available. This podcast discusses real crimes, including murder, and in some cases, crimes involving children. These topics may be disturbing for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. How are you related to Melanie? And how old were you at the time of her disappearance?
Yeah. So I am Melanie's first cousin. Her mom and my dad were brother-sister. And I was 9 years old just turned 9 years old when Melanie went missing.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What was family like? Was it, a big family? Was it a smaller, intimate family? Or, what was family life like?
Lots of aunts and uncles.
Okay.
And then there were tons of cousins. And Christmas Eve was our side of the family's holiday, so we would always pack into my grandmother's house on Christmas Eve, and all the cousins were there, and that's when we did our celebrating for the holidays for sure.
On Friday, October 27th, 1989, Melanie was focused on something far more immediate than the future. She wanted to spend that evening with friends. That night, Melanie told her grandmother she had planned to stay at a friend's house. Instead, she had made other plans. Plans that would take her to a party in a wooded area in an industrial park off of Interstate 93. The location was known to local teenagers, a secluded gathering spot tucked away from parents, teachers, and authority figures. The kind of place where teenagers gathered on Friday nights to socialize, listen to music, and enjoy a little freedom, whatever that may be. As October air grew colder and the night wore on, Melanie spent the evening with a group of older teenagers. No one there knew they were witnessing the final known hours of her life. At some point during the morning hours of October 28th, the gathering began to break up. When investigators later pieced together the events of that evening, they determined Melanie was last seen with Jimmy Tresca and Jean Bertini. To this day, law enforcement believes they were the last individuals to see Melanie alive. What happened next remains one of Massachusetts' most enduring mysteries. When Melanie failed to return home, and when it became clear she had never arrived at her friend's house when she was expected to spend the night, her family became alarmed, and police were contacted. To understand the disappearance of Melanie Melanson, you first have to understand Woburn. For those who grew up in Massachusetts during the 1980s and 90s, Woburn was a place most people knew, even if they didn't live there. It was the kind of city where families put down roots, where neighbors knew one another, and where Friday nights often revolved around the movies, football games, local restaurants, and trips to the mall. Back then, the Woburn Mall was a destination. Long before online shopping, people from across the region came to stores like Lechmere and the Fabric Place. For many New England families, the Fabric Place was where mothers and grandmothers picked out patterns and fabric for everything from homemade curtains to your homemade Halloween costumes. And for kids growing up in the 1980s, there were perhaps no more exciting destination than Toys R Us. Long before Amazon wish lists and online shopping carts, kids walked those aisles, dreaming about the latest Nintendo games, action figures, bike, or board game. And for many, Toys R Us wasn't just a store, it was part of their childhood. These weren't just places to shop, they were gathering places where memories were made and weekends were spent. Woburn itself is a blue-collar city. There is very little pretension. People work hard and raise their families. It is not flashy, and it doesn't try to be. The authenticity is a part of its identity. It is a comfortable family community where generations often stayed close to home. Parents worked hard, kids played outside until the streetlights came on, and neighbors looked out for one another. On a nice day, families may spend an afternoon walking around Horn Pond, or as many locals affectionately call it, Hon Pond. The scenic pond and surrounding trails have been a long gathering place for residents looking to stretch or get some exercise. Whether you are taking a walk, fishing, riding a bike, or simply enjoying the view, Horn Pond is one of those places that feels very uniquely Woburn. Geographically, Woburn is larger and more diverse than many people realize. Dense residential neighborhoods sit along wooded areas, ponds, and stretches of undeveloped land. The city borders Burlington, Wilmington, and Stoneham, while also touching some of Greater Boston's most sought-after communities, including Lexington and Winchester. And in many ways, Woburn sits at the crossroads between working-class roots and suburban prosperity. It is also impossible to talk about Woburn without mentioning the traffic. The city is home to one of the most recognizable highway interchanges in New England, the junction of Interstate 93 and Interstate 95, commonly known to as the Cloverleaf. For commuters traveling north or south of Boston, Woburn became synonymous with traffic reports. Even today, many Massachusetts residents measure the length of a commute by whether the traffic is backing up at the Cloverleaf. For locals, it wasn't just a landmark, it was often the benchmark for how good or bad your commute was going to be. But beneath the image of shopping centers, family neighborhoods, and highway congestion, Woburn was carrying a burden that had drawn national attention. Through the 1970s and into the 1980s, residents began noticing unusually high rates of childhood leukemia and other serious illness. Questions emerged about whether contaminated drinking water was responsible. The investigation eventually led to one of the most significant environmental legal battles in American history. The contamination centered around municipal wells G and H, where industrial chemicals had seeped into the city's water supply. In 1982, the families filed a class action lawsuit against several corporations they believed were responsible for the contamination. The legal battle stretched throughout the decade and placed Woburn in the national spotlight. The case would later become the base for John Haar's best-selling book, A Civil Action, and the 1998 film adaptation starring John Travolta. For years, Woburn found itself making national headlines, not because of crime, but because ordinary families were fighting powerful corporations while searching for answers about what had happened to their children. By 1989, when 14-year-old Melanie Melanson disappeared, much of that battle was still fresh in the minds of local residents. Woburn was already a community that understood what it felt like to search for answers, to live with uncertainty, and to wait for justice. No one could have imagined that another mystery was about to become part of the city's story. A mystery that more than 35 years later remains unsolved. But before Melanie became a missing persons poster, before her photograph appeared on billboards across Massachusetts, before investigators spent decades searching the woods, ponds, and neighborhoods of Woburn, she was simply Melanie. A 14-year-old freshman at Woburn High School, a daughter, a granddaughter, a friend. Someone with plans for the weekend, worries about school, and dreams for the future. Like many teenagers, Melanie was beginning to explore her independence. Her 15th birthday was just days away. What were some of Melanie's interests and hobbies and dreams back then?
Loved hanging out with her friends, cheerleading, being in the high school was, and having older friends was, a great feeling to have, and feeling included in these parties and these get-togethers, and lots of fun and just personable, and just got along with all of us. It was, yeah.
What do you remember about Melanie in the weeks leading up to her disappearance? Do you remember anything specific? I mean, you were young.
I was young. I have memories of where I lived, and I actually currently, let me back up. My grandmother's home, where I currently live right now, actually, I was able to move into her home after she passed away. My aunt, Mary Ann, which was another aunt, lived 2 doors down. Oh. But I grew up in this house because I was always at my grandparents' house, and Melanie would always come over and always spend time at my Aunt Mary Ann's house and babysit us. So that's how I have memories of her. I wasn't directly in school with her, okay. But leading up to it, she was excited. Her birthday was coming up. She was getting a leather jacket, so that was like a big thing for her. So she was super excited getting her braces off. So it was a very exciting time for her at this point.
Like many missing juvenile cases during that era, investigators initially considered the possibility that Melanie had run away. That theory may have not lasted long, but it may have stalled the investigation. Very common for teenagers to hang out in the wooded areas, especially back then.
It was so normal.
Yes.
Yeah,
It was a normal thing to
it
do.
was. It
Yes.
wasn't a weird, yeah, it was definitely a normal thing.
Yes.
Party in the woods, yeah.
And of course, back then there were no electronics or anything like that that
No.
were keeping people, occupied. It was, that was a thing to do.
Yep.
Do you think Melanie understood the risks of where she was going that night? Or she just felt like she was going to a typical teenage gathering? I think it was noted that she was the youngest person potentially at that party.
Yeah, she was, being able to hang out with the older kids. She got invited to hang out with them. And absolutely not do I think that she thought for 1 second that she wasn't going to come home that night. There's nothing in my brain that says that at all.
Whatever car she got into, whatever
Yep.
group she went with, which we'll talk in more detail about that, because I
Yep.
know there's a lot of information about that.
Yes,
She felt safe with them.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
What was your family initially told about where she was going that night? I think she said she was going to a friend's house, like a teenager. She was going to sleep over someone's house.
Yep.
But she was actually going to that party, which is,
Yes.
Again, typical teenage
Yes.
behavior.
Yes, you get into high school and you have an opportunity to hang out with the older kids and, be accepted by everybody. And yes, absolutely. That's
Yes.
exactly what happened.
So the night that happens, the next morning, your family realizes that she had attended the party, and now Melanie is nowhere to be found. They're understandably frantic.
Yes.
They're calling everybody.
Yep. And Amber Alert wasn't a thing yet.
No.
Nope, 1989. So she had said she slept over the neighbor's house. When the neighbor woke up and didn't see her, because she was, what the plan was that Melanie was going to go to this party,
Okay.
come back, throw rocks at her friend's window. Friend was going to come down, let her in, and she would have slept over technically. So that was the plan.
Okay.
When she never showed up to her friend's house, she just assumed that she ended up going back home. My grandmother, same thing, thought she was at the friend's house. When we finally realized that that wasn't the case, then everyone definitely started getting frantic and worried and concerned and started making phone calls to other friends' houses, going to other friends' houses. Again, no cell phones. This is landline.
Absolutely.
Years. And trying to figure out who she was with, where she could be, and who last saw her.
And to your point, this was 1989. So if someone went missing overnight, the family realizes it the next morning. There's a lineage of things that happen before it hits the local news, and then no one in the community knows really until it's printed or until it's on the evening news.
Exactly.
So
And they don't
that's
even
a long
make it a
time
big
period.
deal because, again, did she have a history of running away before? Yes, they did. So, of course, that was the police's first instinct was like, oh, she ran away before. This must be it. But we knew. And again, I was only 9. When I say we, I mean my family.
Absolutely.
I could tell that there was concern. I have these vague memories of driving down Montvale Ave once we found out that she was at a party. And I remember pulling in this parking lot and trying to, see in the woods, can we find her? Is she any remains of her somewhere? Meaning like, jacket, something. And I remember it was chaos. Everyone was trying to figure out what happened. Who was she last seen with? Having a big family, though, does help because split and conquer. So that was definitely, everyone was trying to do that, but no cell phones. So you had to just check back in and call the landline.
Yeah. As evidence was gathered and witnesses were interviewed, investigators came to believe something far more troubling had occurred. Melanie had not simply disappeared. Authorities soon concluded that she was likely the victim of foul play, and that she may never have left that area alive. For Melanie's family, the nightmare was only beginning. Minutes became hours, hours became days, days became weeks, weeks became months, months became years, and those years became decades, and still there are no answers. Even though you're young at the time, This is something that is obviously a very tragic event for your family. So, it obviously you'll have memories of it, but also in the fact that this is something that your family's lived with for many years. So this is something that has been a conversation
Oh, yeah.
that has been had with your grandmother and your aunts and uncles and you over the years, especially with not knowing still to this day, which we'll get into as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad when we lose another aunt or uncle, not to sound morbid, but I mean, when another one passes away, you say, my gosh, we got to do something before none of them are left, because they just gave their whole lives to trying to find her and put so much effort in. And, when my dad had passed away, and then, eventually my grandmother, my uncle, it just started adding up. And we just said, my cousin and I just said, we can't keep doing this. We got to really put another push forward.
Yes.
And take this over. And that's kind of what we're doing now.
And even Melanie's mother has passed away as well?
She died tragically in a fire.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yep. It was a very tragic year. I mean, we had my dad was the first one to pass away in January of that one year. And then 3 months later, Melanie's mother passed away in the fire. And then, yeah, it just unfortunately just kept on going.
Did it feel like from the very beginning that your family thought that people were withholding information, or someone may have been withholding information? They were not getting the full truth maybe from the very beginning?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Once we started piecing together information from speaking to people who were at the party and realizing that she was left by everyone with 2 guys that were last at the party. It was her and the 2 guys, and everyone else had kind of started to go home and head back out. So it was just her and those 2 guys. And then when we questioned the 2 guys, they did the point at the finger at each other going, no, she went with him. No, she went with him. We knew that there was a problem. Yes, and they were the last 2. The consensus was we knew that she was last with them too. So we know that for a fact. After that is where we start getting the conflicting stories. The names of the 2 individuals that she was last with is Jimmy Tresca and Eugene Bertini.
And they were giving conflicting stories.
Yep.
And I know there's a connection with, I mean, this was something that I've seen on social media as well. There's a connection with a police officer. It may have been a stepfather. It is a stepfather of one of those people.
Yes, at the time, Jimmy and his mom were living with Rodriguez, who was a cop for Woburn Police.
At the time that Melanie went missing.
Yes.
And he was one of the last people to see Melanie.
Yep.
And so, do you believe that Melanie left that party alive, or do you think something happened in the woods?
My opinion is that she did not leave that party, and something happened in the woods.
Okay.
Which was right behind the house of Jimmy Tresca.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The search for Melanie would stretch across decades. In August of 1992, investigators searched Walker Pond in Woburn after receiving an anonymous tip suggesting Melanie's remains had been submerged inside a vehicle. Despite extensive efforts, nothing was found. Just months later, in November of 1992, authorities returned to Walker Pond after receiving additional information. Once again, that search yielded no trace of Melanie. The case remained active, but leads were scarce. And there were testing done at a later date that found human decomposition or DNA in that area?
Yes. So we had many different things that we did. She went we reported her missing on October 28th in 1989.
Yep.
We had first heard stories that possibly remains went into Walker's Pond, which is probably about a mile or less from where the party area was.
Okay. Is that in Winchester?
It's actually in Woburn. It's right near that brand new school that's right there, right on the corner of the intersection.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay.
So it's right there. And then,
So you're talking the corner of Montville Ave.
and not Washington and Montvale, the one right before it.
Okay.
So,
In Woburn, yeah.
yep. And that pond was just, it's so hard to see through it. The train runs right by it, actually. That's the one that we did, based on information suggesting her remains were submerged in a vehicle. And the search yielded no evidence. They sent in a dive team. We tried to search there. It was a very difficult search just because it's not a very clean pond. And the car that we were also searching for, just to put this in, Jimmy Tresca's car went missing, coincidentally, a week after when we wanted to search the car
Okay.
that he was in at the party last.
Okay. That's very interesting.
Missing, if you would.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Uh-huh.
And I think I saw reports that someone said that it had been burnt down and scraped or something, the car.
We've heard some conflicting stories. Was it that? Was it crushed? Was it
Okay.
put into... We've had other stories where we did searches thinking that possibly Walker's Pond. We also did a search over in the an aerial search in a wooded area, and then also over by the Fells area there was another search, possibly in the water there. So there have been many different things. Anytime we get a tip, we follow it up, and we have great resources, which is very helpful.
So something happened. So everyone leaves the party. Everyone leaves the woods. It's the two of them.
Yep.
And Melanie.
Yes.
And we think something happened with them in the woods, and she does not leave the woods alive.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And so I'll go back to the Florida theory for a minute. Do you think that hurt the case early on, the urgency of it, because the police were just, I don't want to say they were just shunning it off as another runaway child, but that's what they were really looking at it as at the beginning.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I think that's how my family felt, absolutely.
Yeah.
Whether that's what they were doing, I'm not going to speak for them, obviously. I'm going to speak for what my opinion is, and that's, I truly, in our family, does think that it could have definitely been more productive, because we knew that wasn't what happened, not at the time. At that time, she had so many things going for her. Like I mentioned, her braces were coming off. She was, popular, getting invited to parties, about to get a leather jacket. Back then, that was such a big deal. And so she was looking forward to all these things. She had no reason to run away.
Nearly 20 years after Melanie vanished, the district attorney's office renewed public attention to the case by announcing a $5,000 reward for information leading to the recovery of Melanie's remains or the arrest of those responsible. That same year, investigators excavated a wooded area near the former General Foods plant in Woburn based on information they had received. The search produced no evidence connected to Melanie. As 2009 came to a close, family members and community supporters gathered for a vigil on what would have been Melanie's 35th birthday. For those who love her, she has never been forgotten. In April of 2011, Jean Bertini, one of the last known people to see Melanie alive, was arrested on unrelated charges. Authority publicly confirmed that he remained a person of interest in Melanie's disappearance. Later that year, investigators searched land behind a McDonald's on Montville Ave in Woburn after receiving another tip. Soil testing indicated evidence consistent with human decompensation, but despite extensive excavation, no human remains were located. The searches continued. In 2012, investigators turned their attention to the Middlesex Fells Reservation and other wooded areas throughout the region. Volunteers joined law enforcement, utilizing cadaver dogs and forensic tools in hopes of uncovering evidence. Again, nothing conclusive was found. In December of that year, Massachusetts State Police helicopters conducted aerial searches over wooded areas near the former General Foods property. Still no answers. In 2000, In 13, electronic billboards appeared throughout Massachusetts displaying Melanie's photograph and asking the public for help. Investigators believe someone knows what happened, but that person or people have remained silent. In August of 2015, investigators searched a residential property using ground penetrating radar after receiving new information. Once again, no evidence was recovered. And so the mystery continues. Today, more than 3.5 decades after Melanie disappeared, authorities believe she was killed the night she vanished. Her body has never been found. No one has ever been charged. And her family continues to live with the uncertainty that began on that October night in 1989. In January of 2026, Melanie's family launched new efforts to generate awareness and encourage people to come forward. And so, as we sit here today, there is a renewed push, and I'll tell you there is a renewed push because you're very tenacious, which is a good thing, right?
Yes.
I sat with Bob Ward from Boston 25 a few weeks ago for another podcast episode, and we just chatted afterwards. And this was one of the cases that he had, talked about being unsolved, and so there is a renewed push. You have a GoFundMe. I want you to plug all that information. I want you to give us all that
definitely.
information. But you've been speaking with the new detective. There's a renewed push. You want the information out there. Definitely share that with us.
Yes. The prior detective is retiring.
Okay.
And then I was able to meet Mark Rafi, who is the new detective. Heard nothing but great things about him. And then actually being able to work with him has been great. That helps when you have a good feeling, when you know that someone is trying and wants to succeed just as much as you do in this. So I feel like that's definitely helpful. The GoFundMe is to help because we do feel like we have received some tips, and when we need to start moving on some of these things cost money.
Absolutely.
Resources cost money, and we want to be able to use every single resource we have available. In prior years, we've been able to have different searches go on and donated to us, quite honestly, which has been wonderful. In Connecticut, the canine cadaver dogs have been a great help to us. Alan Tate has been wonderful for us and orchestrating these things. And this is what this money will go for, as well as a reward for information. I mean, rent ain't cheap anymore.
No, it is not.
Gas isn't either,
No.
So I think that if we keep raising money, we're up to $5,000 right now, plus we had $5,000 prior. So it's a little over $10,000 right now total.
Good.
And we're hoping to get more as attention grows, and that this will hopefully motivate one of these people that know to come forward.
Absolutely.
Because now there's money involved, and that can definitely make people talk.
Absolutely. And what is the website? Is it melaniemelanson.com?
Yes, it is.
Okay. You can find all the information about the case as well as all the information about the GoFundMe. And of course, any updates as well.
Yes.
Have you spoken to the detective about the two individuals we've talked about? You obviously have spoken to him at length. You don't have to share with me what that conversation was, but have you spoken to, you've shared with the detective all that information that we've talked about today?
Oh, yes. I attended Bertini's hearing last week that he had, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
And what was that in relation to?
So Bertini has 3 warrants out for his arrest,
Okay.
One being a felony warrant out of New Hampshire, which we're waiting for him to get picked up on that, for fentanyl. So great member of society since high school, and was picked up on just a minor warrant a few weeks ago
In
out of Peabody. Yep.
Okay.
He is currently living up north.
Okay.
But he does have family down here, so he does come down here still, and was picked up in Peabody on the minor warrant, and had been in Billerica House Corrections for 35 days, and they also added charges for his probation violation, which is what the hearing was for last week. And it is absolutely crazy that yes, was it a couple of years ago, his probation violations that he's been running away from since then. But as I'm sitting in the court, they're reading off, he had 2 to 3 failed drug tests on probation,
Horrible.
did not show up for probation meetings, and then failed to show up for the probation violation and was able to walk out of court that day. And I get it. There are definitely worse criminals being accused of different things that should be in jail now, and however the system is worked, but it does not matter in this situation because it's
there should be consequences
to everything you've done.
Yes.
He's not a good person. I mean, we did shortly after Melanie went missing, we did do a 2020 interview.
Okay.
And what is wild was that the 2020 interview, at the time, Gene couldn't show up for the interview because he was on house arrest for pistol whipping a 16-year-old child at a gas station and robbing him.
Oh, God.
He's an adult at this time.
Yes.
This isn't a teenager this is a grown man robbing a gas station and doing this. So he was on house arrest, so he couldn't show up for the interview. And then Tresca was in jail for domestic violence on his girlfriend at the time, but he showed up to the interview, and quite honestly, I was secondhand embarrassed for his interview. So
Okay.
he made him look himself.
Did he?
Yes, he was, yeah.
Okay.
He did his own damage.
So you were at the bail hearing, you said last week.
I was.
Did he see you?
He doesn't know who I am.
Oh, okay.
As far as I know.
Okay.
He had no idea,
Okay.
did not make eye contact.
Okay. Because I'm just saying, like, you as a message, I'm here,
That was my point,
Yeah.
to be there.
I'm not going anywhere.
I'm not.
No.
Me and my cousin Kim are not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be worse than what they've had to deal with. And if they thought that as these aunts and uncles get older, they may get exhausted and not want to have to keep doing this forever. But all it did was just, give it to the children who are first cousins of Melanie and do remember Melanie. So, yes, we are not going anywhere at all.
Well, it just takes one relative
That's it.
That's tenacious and one detective. Thank you to Melanie's cousin, Billy Sue Hutchins, for joining us. If you have information about Melanie's disappearance, no matter how small it may seem, please contact the Woburn Police Department at 781-933-1212, extension 4547. Again, that's 781-933-1212, extension 4547. Or you may email them at policeinfo@woburnpd.com. For additional information, case updates, resources, and ways you may support the efforts to find answers, visit MelanieMelanson.com. That's MelanieMelanson.com. Thank you for listening to Murders in Massachusetts. And if this story moved you, please consider sharing Melanie's case with others. Public awareness remains one of the most powerful tools in solving cold cases. Because Melanie deserves to be found, her family deserves answers, and after more than 35 years, it's time to bring home justice. Until next time, remember every town has a story, and some of those stories are still being written. Thank you for listening to Murders in Massachusetts. If this episode resonated with you, please consider sharing it. And be sure to follow or hit the like button so you always know when new episodes are released. Multi-part episodes will be released on a weekly basis, while standalone episodes will follow a bi-weekly release schedule. You can always find more information about this or any episode at murdersinma.com. If you have any insight into a case or a story you believe should be told, you can reach me directly at murdersinmapodcasts@gmail.com. And as always, remember the stories we tell here are about real people real families, and communities that continue to carry them. I'm Jonathan Power. We'll see you next time.